Alright, card fighters, we're back with episode 2, part 2 of Level Up Your Deck. Back with the Nova Grapplers, Extreme Battlers, and I'm going to go over these key cards here and the overall strategy of the deck of how you want to would run this ideally. So we'll start by talking about Victor. Well, actually, kind of talk about these two together. So, like I mentioned previously, you want Victor on the Vanguard circle always. If you don't have to ride anyone else, you do not want to ride them. You want him on there. So, having this guy, he's one of the most important cards in the deck because he's gonna search out your Victors for you, if you need to. So, having him in hand. Yeah, he's good for stride, to pitch for stride, but to make sure that you have Victor in your hand ready to ride by turn 3 is pretty crucial. And because Victor's the most pressure when one of your G units strides over him, more pressure than your Raybirds or Musashi. So that's why you want Victor. Usually without him, you have a hard time pressuring just because the amount of stands you can do is decreased. So having him, like I said, one of the most important units if you do not have Victor. If you have Victor in hand, he's a really good unit because he's gonna allow you to stride. And like I say, this deck, stride is everything. You gotta stride. That's what you want to do. So yeah. So we'll talk about, I kind of went a little more in depth on everything than I wanted to in the deck profile, so we will just talk about some of the setups here that you would want. So let's say a field looks something like this. Alright, so Vic 10, key unit because he's going to be your first stride always, and his skill, it's not really what we're going for. We're more or less striding him so we can be able to stride Victoplasma next. So what you would essentially do here is stride him onto Victor. Now Victor has his skill where he can cause the unit to stand and give it 5,000 power. So what this is going to look like here, we'll just do this. Counterblast. So this field isn't hard to set up. Really, you don't have to have him here. It can be any unit, any grade 1 booster. Getting Hank over Rumble, as long as they're not playing Royal Kagero or Narukami where they can retire the starter, putting Hank in front of him is quite easy, and having a Sazanda out, is easy too. We run 4 and 4 of them, so seeing them is, pretty consistent. But like I say, this can be switched with anything, but just for the sake of the video, we'll have this set up here. So what you do is you essentially attack here for 16, then you would attack here for 14, but you want to use Cool Hank's skill. You'd counterblast and you'd stand him. So now he got plus 10. So he's now 19 by himself. Then you'd attack Sazanda again for 19. Then you would attack Vanguard, in which Victor's skill would activate. You counterblast your 1, and you restand a unit, give it 5,000. So you just got another 10. So he's now 29 alone. Let's say you pull a stand trigger. Boom. You check a stand trigger. which is very, common. It's a stand trigger. You run 8 of them. You have a triple drive right now. You're probably gonna run into a stand trigger. So, stand trigger. We're gonna stand this guy. Then, say they let the attack hit. We're gonna use his skill to stand him and give him an extra 5. So now we can extend even more attacks. Oh, and by the way, Szanda stood up twice now, so he'd get another 8 onto his 29, making him 37 on his own. So then we attack here and just attack here. So that's the kind of pressure the deck puts on. Okay, so to recap on that, it's 1 attack, 2 attack, 3 attack, 4 attack, in which we stood back up again, 5 attacks, and 6 attacks. So from a pretty basic field setup, we get 6 attacks off. And they are very, very powerful. They're quite powerful at that. So that's how you would want to run columns. Now, Energy Girl. This card is going to be good because let's say we had this here instead of Rumble. Let's say Rumble got retired. And so, same scenario, when you did that attack, and we did that, what happened this time though is you'd attack and attack, but you use this skill this time to get 1 more out of it. So that takes it from 6 to 7 attacks there. So that's why this card is good. Then it puts it back into the deck, and you can, next turn possibly drive check it again. So that's a typical field. That's how you want it to look. The last card I'm going to go a little more in depth about is Victoplasma. And this card's just so much, it's so hard to beat. It's because, let's say you have a very basic field. That's all you have is this right here. You attack here, and let's say you attack here. You get a twin drive, in which you could still get, like, say, a critical trigger. Not a crit. You could get a crit, but you get a stand trigger and you stand him from, actually you would stand him from his skill. So, boom, you stand him, 19 there. He's going to do his twin drive. He's going to pitch 2. He's going to restand. You're going to attack here. He's going to attack again, which it's very common to get stand triggers with the deck. I mean, like I say, we run 8 of them. We're drive checking a lot. We're drawing a lot of cards. It's very easy to get another stand trigger. So say we get stand trigger. Put it there. He's back to 29. Actually, we boost with him the second time. And then with Energy Girl skill, put it back in the deck to stand this guy. That's a whole nother attack. And the reason that's dangerous is because by time you ride him, with the amount of pressure you did early on with Vic 10, they're probably sitting at about 4 to 5 damage right now. Yeah, so I mean, he just tends to come out and end the games just like that, because you pressure them so much so early on that, yeah, late game when he comes out, it's like they don't have any guard. There's nothing they can really do. So really quickly, I'll go over what a match would generally look like for me, just up until the first try. So we'd have Rumble, we'd ride, move back, then where's Hank? Still early on, we'll ride Hank and we'll cost Szanda. The reason I do this is because you want to keep pressure on throughout the early game and the late game. So always attack with the rear guards first, because like I said, you're probably going to get a stand trigger. So always attack here, then attack, do your drive check. This is the field you want because you don't want to put out too much. You don't want to have a bunch of units everywhere, because if they have decks that can retire, they retire those units, or they're just going to attack at the units, and that's going to drain your hand. Another thing you don't want to do is guard early on. And the reason you don't want to do this is because you want your hand size to grow very big. So, yeah, take quite a bit of damage, and also because you want to be able to use his skill, Victor's skill, Victor's skill, and a little bit later on, Victoplasma skill. So, say you're on the Victoplasma turn, you need 4 damage face up that you can counterblast. So, having a field set up like this early on is ideal, unless situation calls for something else. If you see your opponent's low on hand, you can throw out another unit to pressure. But that's pretty much what you're going to do, is keep pressure up early on. So even at grade 1, if you ride him and you have another grade 1, go ahead and slap him down and pressure. Just pressure, pressure, pressure. Because the later the game gets, the harder it is to win. You know, and the more you let your opponent build up their advantage, yeah, it gets a little bit harder. Not much, but a little bit. So yeah, then you ride 2, same thing, then 3, and with Novas, you generally don't want to skip your ride phase to try to get the second you don't want to skip this ride so they can't stride. You want, like, if you're going first, go ahead and ride him, and the reason why is because, like I said, we want to take damage so we can keep our hand big. So you attack with him, you get the twin drive that adds 2 more cards to your hand, and you should be able to stop whatever they have coming at you. And then, because once you strike, you are going to be in the lead. There's nothing they're really going to be able to do once you stride your Vic 10, and you have, you know, Hank, possibly a Cezanne, or even just this right here. You know, you're going to be dominant. You're going to be in control because their hand is going to just completely disappear. You're going to draw 3 more cards off of it. So yeah, these guys, when it comes to a race, they can beat anyone in a race to the finish. So don't be afraid to take the damage early on and sit on a bunch of cards in hand, because like I said, once you stride, you're gonna definitely shoot into the lead. If they have 12 cards in hand, they're probably gonna disappear really fast. So that's pretty much the deck. It's very basic to run. Not really much you have to do. You kind of just gotta call units and attack with rear guards first, attack with vanguards last. That way you get the restands, and just make sure you keep at least 1 column for pressure early on until you're ready to actually do a complete rush in the late game. So that's pretty much it. Like I say, I mean, they're very basic to run, but they're very efficient, very fun, and very strong. I have went just undefeated with this deck twice, and there's also been times where I've lost with this deck too, due to just field not being set up properly, also not pressuring properly. So I mean, there's a couple of ways that this deck can fail. Yeah, so just that's another reason you don't want to take. That's the reason you don't want to guard a lot. You just want to you just want to keep a lot of cards in hand. That way you're able to set up the field as properly, and you're not trying to constantly save a bunch of rear guards. So keep it simple first, come out for the kill. So, but that is the deck. That is pretty much how you play it. Like I said, very basic, but very efficient. So tell me what you think, guys. How do you like Dancing Wolf being in the deck? I think he's pretty awesome. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe. I will be back with episode 3, part 1 of Level Up Your Deck, where I'm going to come with a brand new Royal Paladin Stride deck. It's going to be something that I don't think anyone has done yet. So yeah, I'll get that one made here, and I will see you guys then. Thanks for watching.